a tour guide, ghost stories mostly. And one of the first stories I told on a professional level, I guess you could say, is about this river here. This is the Caloosahatchee. Those of you who aren't really in the know, Caloosa was the name of the Native American tribe that lived up and down this part of Florida, and Hatchee was their word for river. Now, back in the early 1900s, when Fort Myers was still very much a cattle town, is when we first start seeing reports of a figure known as the Caloosahatchee She-Man. A name that was probably born from local cowboys' lack of political correctness. Now, unfortunately, there's no written record of the She-Man's real name. There is a record of his former employer's name, a person named Mr. Morgan. Now, the speculation goes that Mr. Morgan was a direct descendant of infamous Welsh pirate Captain Henry Morgan, a fellow you might know from the bottle of rum. He could do the thing, his pants weren't so tight. Now, the person became known as the She-Man lived in a small cabin along with his wife and son on a piece of property owned by this Mr. Morgan. And one night, as his wife and son went for a walk out on the estate, they came across Morgan holding a shovel bearing something. Some folks believe he was bearing treasure he got from his great-great-granddaddy. Other folks believe, more likely, he was bearing a corpse. Whatever it was he actually had there, it was very clear he didn't want anyone to find out about it, because he quickly bashed the child's head in, using a shovel, then took off running after the mother, who was at this point very sensibly running away. Unfortunately for her, Mr. Morgan was much, much quicker. He caught her, beat her with inches of her life, using that same shovel, then left her for dead off of one of the trails on his property. Her husband, who went looking for his family after they didn't come home that night, found the broken and at this point insect-covered body of his lover sprawled out on one of those trails, and she died there shortly after he found her, but not before she was able to tell him what Mr. Morgan had done. Now, if I said this news wasn't taken very well, that would be a huge understatement. He takes his wife's dress off of her dead body, he put it on himself, and then he went looking for Mr. Morgan. He found him out here on the river, in a small boat rowing away from shore. The She-Man, dress and all, dove into the water, swam out to that little boat, overturned it, and presumably drowned Morgan in the waters of the river. Although no body was ever recovered from that. This person, the She-Man, spent most of his life in his wife's dress, like a hermit up and down the coast of the river, which earned him his very unusual nickname. And the boaters spend their time on that river to this day, so they sometimes see him as a man with wild hair and a blood-stained dress and a scraggly beard, peering at them from shore as if he were searching for something out there in the river. And those boaters I've spoken to believe that's the ghost of the Caloosahatchee She-Man looking for the body of Mr. Morgan, to make sure he'd finally finish what he started so many years ago.